Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Hoopers Lounge podcast with myself, Max Anderson, and my co-host, Alex Perez. And on today's episode of the Hoopers Lounge, we will be previewing the Southeast Conference, or Division, in the Eastern Conference, and also a brief recap of Anthony Davis's newest extension. So we'll start there. Anthony Davis and the Los Angeles Lakers agreed to a 3-year extension this past week, totaling $186 million. That's $62 million per season, which makes it the richest annual contract in NBA history. I think this is a good move for the Lakers, re-signing Anthony Davis. And richest annual contract's a little weird for Anthony Davis, but I feel like this is the last big payday he's going to get in his career.
Yeah, but the contract's only going to be worth it if he's able to stay on the court. Anthony Davis is someone that's known to have a lot of injury issues in his career. His nickname is literally Street Clothes. So if he is wearing street clothes for half of the season, then paying him $60 million a year will definitely not be worth it at all. This also might impact LeBron's free agency. We know he wants to play with his son, but with Bronny recently suffering the cardiac arrest, his NBA and even his college career are in doubt. He might not be able to play again. So if that's the case, LeBron very well might stay with the Lakers, especially now they might have seen that and taken the opportunity to make sure they re-sign one of his best friends.
Yeah. I think that's all we had for that. Just quick news segment. And now we'll get on to the majority of our podcast today, which is previewing the Southeastern Division. We'll start with the Atlanta Hawks. So the Atlanta Hawks, coming off a pretty mediocre season last year, losing in the first round to the Celtics. Obviously, trading for DeJounte Murray last year was a huge deal for them. I don't think it worked out as well as they had hoped, but I expect a similar season this year, mediocre.
Yeah, I don't see much improvement for the Hawks that can come other than internal improvement. Maybe more chemistry developed between Trae Young and DeJounte. The MVP for the season is obviously going to be Trae Young, and I have the X factor as DeJounte because that pairing is really what's going to determine whether or not the Hawks can be any sort of threat in the Eastern Conference this year. Those are two star guards that, in theory, should complement each other well. DeJounte is a great defensive guard. Trae is a great offensive guard. They complement each other's weaknesses. But we didn't see it much last season. They ended up being, I think it was a 7th seed in the Eastern Conference and lost to the Celtics in the first round. And then they proceeded to trade John Collins away to the Utah Jazz. And Clint Capella is reportedly on the trade block. So that opens the door for Onyeka Okongwu to start. So unless there's internal improvement from those young guys, I don't see the Hawks improving that much from last year.
I agree. I don't see them improving a little bit, if not at all. I have them finishing anywhere between 10 and 6 in the Eastern Conference, so right in that play-in range. For X Factor, though, I had DeAndre Hunter, not DeJounte Murray. I feel like DeAndre Hunter is the one guy who could take a huge leap for this team and maybe surprise a lot of people in the NBA. And that would definitely help the Hawks if he took an unexpected leap.
Yeah, it could be Okongwu too. I mean, if Capella does get traded, Okongwu, this is going to be his first year starting, and he might take that big leap that everyone thought. There's multiple X factors that could be for the Hawks, which is never a bad thing. It's just the team does have a high ceiling, but because of that, it also has a very low floor. And I agree with you. They could finish as high as a 6 and make the playoffs straight up, or they could finish 10 and barely scrap the playing game by the skin of their teeth. I do think Trae Young is too much of an awesome offensive threat for the Hawks to miss postseason play entirely. But I also don't think the roster surrounding him is strong enough for them to make any sort of threat in the East.
Yeah, I see them very similar to a team that we talked about last episode, the Knicks, with Jalen Brunson being so good that they will make the playoffs. But after that, they're going to need to play out of their mind to win a playoff round probably this season.
Mm-hmm. They're going to need some step up internally. They don't have much hope. They don't have a lot of trade bases either, since the Spurs get their first round picks for the next couple of years after the DeJounte trade. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's all based on internal improvement from the Hawks in their first full year under Quinn Snyder.
Yep. All right, moving off of the Hawks, we'll talk about the Charlotte Hornets next. So the Charlotte Hornets are an interesting team this season, coming off an atrocious year last year. Injuries,
This team's putting it
scandals,
nicely.
Michael Jordan needing to sell the team, bunch of stuff going against the Hornets last year. I expect them to be just a tad bit better this year, and I do think they can make the play-in tournament. That's about it. I don't even know if they can make the playoffs out of the play-in tournament, but I do think they could make the play-in tournament this year with their team MVP obviously being LaMelo Ball. And I have their X factor this year as a returning Miles Bridges. He, after a year off from basketball because of personal issues, I don't know if he's going to return to form because he was a solid number 2 option for the Hornets before that whole incident went down. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can play as good as he has in the past.
And the Hornets' biggest move this offseason might have been Michael Jordan selling the team, which that's never what you want to hear about your team. That the biggest offseason move includes the owner. The Hornets are one of those poverty franchises in the NBA, just straight up. I don't even think I think they made the second round a singular time in their franchise history, which is abysmal, and it doesn't look like they have a chance to make it 2 times this season. I think their ultimate ceiling is a play-in team, and a 9 or 10 seed. I don't think they're gonna. I agree with you. I don't think they're good enough to make the playoffs straight up, and they somehow do sneak into the play-on tournament. I think they're an easy first. I think they're an easy first game for either the 7 or 8 seed. LaMelo Ball is a rising superstar. I also have him as an MVP. And as long as he's happy in Charlotte, they will have a chance to compete for the play-in. But the roster surrounding him is very limited. I also have my X factor as Bridges. Bridges was a great 2 option 2 years ago. He was putting up 20 points a game on the regular, and he was able to help the Hornets get into the play-in game that season. Last season, he did miss because of a domestic violence incident. He was cleared of all charges, and the Hornets re-signed him to a 1-year contract this offseason, which if he gets back to the form that he was 2 years ago, that'll be a bargain. That'll be a huge bargain. Brandon Miller is also an interesting piece. The number 2 pick out of Alabama looked very strong in his lone season there. Didn't have the greatest summer league, but we saw flashes of what he could be. He's still looking for consistent perimeter shooting, but he's a great slasher. He could be an above average defender, and he should be able to contribute and help as a rookie.
Yeah, he has a prototypical body for the NBA. Tall, lengthy, can shoot. He's athletic. That's what every NBA GM is looking for these days. And I definitely think he could have a big role with the Hornets this season, especially if they are somewhat competitive towards the end of the season. I think he will have a huge reason for that.
And Miller has a prototypical 3-and-D body, just missing the 3-point shot. I do think the Hornets should have drafted Scoot Henderson over Brandon Miller. I think Brandon Miller's ceiling is a 3-and-D player. I don't think he's much better than that. Scoot has superstar potential. And if he turns out to be an all-star, the Hornets are going to be kicking themselves for, once again, missing in a draft, which has been a consistent issue for the franchise over the last decade and a half.
Yeah, I think Scoot Henderson definitely would have been a bigger and better option for the Hornets. However, I don't think Brandon Miller is only a 3-and-D player. I think he could be a little bit better than that. But his potential is definitely not to the same level as Scoot's. And I think the Hornets will learn that in the next couple of years, probably.
Yeah, I maybe I'm speaking a little early, but I think the Hornets are going to regret passing on Scoot Henderson.
I agree. All right, moving off of Charlotte, we'll go to the next team, which is the best team in this division, the Miami Heat, who made a Herculean run
really shitty division
in the postseason last year, going all the way from the 8th seed to losing in the NBA Finals. I expect them to be in the top 4 of the Eastern Conference this year and not struggle as much as they did in the regular season last year. After their huge run, I think they're going to take the season seriously, knowing how close they were last year. They're going to be hungry, and I see them as one of the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference this year. For their team MVP, I have Jimmy Butler, obviously. He makes the whole team run, and I expect another great all-star caliber season from Jimmy Butler this year. And for the first time in this podcast, the X Factor is somebody who does not play for the team. My X Factor for the Miami Heat is Damian Lillard. Because if the Heat can somehow secure Damian Lillard, I believe they are the best team in the Eastern Conference. And Damian Lillard is their championship hopes. I don't know if they can win a championship just with the core they have. I think they need one more piece, and I think Dame is the perfect piece to complete the Miami Heat puzzle.
Again, we have the same MVP and X Factor. My MVP is Jimmy Butler, and my X Factor is Damian Lillard. And this is a big X Factor because they lost Gabe Vincent and Max Strus in the offseason, two huge pieces of the core that helped make that Herculean finals run. And if they ended up not getting Damian Lillard, I mean, he's obviously the favorite. He's been linked there for the last month, ever since he requested a trade. But we saw it last year with Donovan Mitchell being linked to the Knicks all the entire way, and then the Cavs coming in and stealing up at the last second. Something like that happens. This Miami Heat core has gotten a lot weaker than what it was last year. We also have to look at what they have to give up for Damian Lillard. The Miami Heat's strength last year, what helped them propel to the finals, was their depth. And Jimmy Butler playing like a superstar in the first round. But what a lot of people don't talk about is that Jimmy Butler dropped off a cliff after the first round. He was kind of an average player for the rest of the playoffs, but they still made the finals, and it was because of the depth that they had. They have to give up a lot of those pieces to get Dame. Their depth might be an issue. So that it is a huge X factor, maybe the biggest X factor in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think the potential of a Dame, Jimmy Butler, and Bam big three is amazing, and I think that would help the Miami Heat a lot.
Very enticing.
However, I do think another X factor for them is Tyler Hero. He's a spectacular playmaker, and he can create his shot, like his own shot off the dribble. And so if they don't go after Dame, I think a healthy Tyler Hero could also help them reach the Eastern Conference Finals maybe this year if they decide to go elsewhere and keep some of those depth pieces that you mentioned.
And that's what they were missing in their playoff run at the end of the day, someone who could create their own shot off the dribble. Butler ended up struggling with that. He relied on his pump faking 3 times and he got in the paint, and it worked some of the time. It did work. But other than that, it was just ball motion, making your open perimeter shots, and good defense that got them to the finals. Very fundamental basketball, but they didn't have that guy who they could say, all right, we need a bucket, go get one. And Tyler Hero could very well be that guy. I think Damian Lillard's a much better version of that. They'd much rather have Dame over Tyler Hero. And if they'd say go get a bucket, I think every NBA fan would rather have Dame over Tyler Hero. But if they don't get Dame, they don't sacrifice any of their depth. And they made the finals last year without that bucket getter. So Tyler Hero could very well make a huge difference for this team.
Yeah. And
he also could be the key piece in the Damian Lillard trade.
Yeah, and with Eric Spoelstra, he's going to make this team better than you probably think it will be. So, I think he's the best coach in basketball right now. So, what he's done with the Heat over the past decade is absurd, and he will lead them pretty far this year.
Oh yeah, he overperforms every roster he has. Overperforms the roster, even the post LeBron rosters where they were considered very weak. They were still very close as a 9 or 10 seed. If not borderline making the playoffs. And I don't think there's any other coach except maybe Pop that could do that, can consistently overperform with every roster.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Spoelstra is going to be great for the Heat this year, especially if he gets Dame. I'm very excited to see what he can do with that big three.
I agree. All right, moving off of the Miami Heat, who we think will be the division favorites this year, we're going to a promising young team in the Orlando Magic, who I think will be the most improved team probably out of this division. The Orlando Magic had a lot of exciting young pieces after a promising rookie season from Paolo Banchero. He was a lot better than I thought he would be last year, and I expect him to lead the team this year. I have him as my team MVP. And I was really struggling with this one to figure out the X factor because they have so many other young players that could step into that, number 2 option. But I went with somebody who's been really injured his entire career, and that's Jonathan Isaac. I think that if he can stay healthy, the Orlando Magic will just have another depth piece, another big guy they can rely on. And I already know that Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony and Franz Wagner, they're all decent pieces. and we know what they're going to give on a night-to-night basis. But Jonathan Isaac, if he can stay healthy, I think he's the biggest X factor for the Magic this season.
Yeah, the Magic are a young team that are on the rise. They've done a great job rebuilding and accumulating young talent over the last couple of years, and I think this is a season where it'll all come to fruition and they'll be able to push for a playoff spot in the East. I wouldn't even be shocked to see them secure the number 6 or number 5 seed. I think they're going to be that good. They didn't do too much in the offseason. They drafted Anthony Brown and Jet Howard, but didn't really have any notable free agent signings or losing. So they're just relying on internal growth from their young players, which the talent they have, Boncaro, Wagner, Anthony. Like you said, they very well could push for a playoff spot. I also have my MVP as Paulo Banchero. He had a phenomenal rookie season. He struggled shooting the ball a little bit. There was one month that he shot like 7% from three, and yet he could score 20 points at will whenever he wanted. He could still just drive and put up 20 points a game. And so if he can get any semblance of a jump shot going, Banchero is gonna be a scary player, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him push for an All-Star spot this year. For my X factor, this is also a hard one because they have so many young pieces that can make a big jump. I went with someone whose career has not gone as people have expected. I went with Markelle Fultz. His career is obviously well documented. Number 1 pick from the Philadelphia 76ers. He was expected to be a superstar offensive player, but he could never find his jump shot and ended up getting traded a year into his career. He also ended up tearing his ACL in his 3rd year, which made him miss a crucial year of development. But if you look at the stats, he's improved every single season. Fultz right now is a great slasher, a good playmaker, and an above-average defender. If he can get a jump shot going, he'll look a lot like the player that a lot of people expected when they drafted him number 1. Fultz still, I believe, has superstar potential. His career may have not gotten off to the start that they wanted, but he's still a very young player. He's 23, 24, not even close to his peak prime age yet. So I think Fultz has a lot of room to grow as a player, and the Magic need a point guard. Suggs has not looked great in his career so far. And they drafted Anthony Black, but he's not a great shooter. Same thing with Cole Anthony. He struggles from the perimeter. If Fultz can get that perimeter shot, he'll secure that starting guard spot and on a very talented Orlando Magic roster. And he could be the difference between the team making the 5 or 6 seed and not making the play-in.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think 5 or 6 would be a monumental season for the Orlando Magic. If they could avoid the play-in altogether and head to the first round of the postseason, I think that would be a fantastic season for the Orlando Magic. I just don't see that happening. I have them as one of my 4 Eastern Conference play-in teams this year. I do think they'll have to fight for the 7 and 8 spot come playoff time. And going off what you said about Markelle Fultz, I completely agree. I think his potential is through the roof. He's super young. He just needs to stay healthy and keep working at it because every season he has gotten better. And he may not be as good as people thought he was, but he's still a really good player, an important piece on this team, and I think he can secure a starting role by the end of the regular season for sure.
And if he does secure that starting role, I have him as a candidate for most improved player. I think he very well could win it. I also do like what you said about Jonathan Isaac. He's been injured we haven't seen him play basketball in 2, maybe 3 years. It's been a while. He's had a lot of knee injuries. But if you played any sort of 2K, and you do my leagues, you know that Jonathan Isaac wins Defensive Player of the Year every single year. He is one of the best defenders in the league. That's not just 2K being 2K. He is an incredible defender, and that's what he offered the Orlando Magic. And on a young team like this, the younger teams tend to struggle defensively. So Jonathan Isaac could provide that leadership role on the other side of the court and really help this team. So I do like that Jonathan Isaac as an X Factor pick.
Yeah, I agree with you. His defensive capabilities are much more important to the Magic than his offensive ones. They have a lot of talented, young, fun players to watch on offense, but defensively, can they get it done as a unit? We just don't know yet. And if Isaac can stay healthy...
They need a leader.
Yeah, if Isaac can stay healthy, he'll be that man in the middle to shut everything down, grab loose balls, rebounds, all that good stuff. So I do think Isaac is the most important piece for the Magic this season if they want to push for that number 6 seed and get out of the play-in altogether.
I think Isaac right now would be best served as a Draymond Green role. I mean, his injuries have sapped a lot of his athleticism, so I don't really know how capable, and he never had a consistent jump shot, so I don't know how capable he'll be on the offensive end, much like Draymond. But he is a defensive genius, one of the best defensive players in the league when he was healthy. And he could be just that captain, that leader on the other side, tells players where they need to go, when to switch, when to stay on, when to go over or under, doing everything, just like Draymond Green does for the Warriors. And he's an essential piece of their dynasty, and that's the Magic will hope Isaac can do the same for them.
Yep, I agree. All right, moving on to the final team of the Southeastern Division. That is the Washington Wizards. Alex, I'll let you go first on this one. Let it rip.
I'm not even going to hold back. This might be the worst roster I've ever seen an NBA team field. They've lost their top two players. They traded them for just future first rounders and players that I couldn't even tell you. Bradley Beal and Porzingis are gone to the Suns and Celtics respectively. And this roster just does not have any sort of talent at all. This is looking like those process 76ers rosters where they just field 5 no-names and try and tank. This is by far the worst roster in the NBA. I mean, their MVP is Kyle Kuzma. It's going to be the Kuzma and Poole show where they're each going to put up 25 points a game on 30% shooting. And they have absolutely no defensive capabilities, either of those players. It's either one of those two that are going to be the MVP of the team, but I don't think any team wants to run out a roster where Jordan Poole is their best player. All due respect to Jordan Poole, but I don't think that's a move. I have my X factor being the NBA draft lottery in 2024, because I don't think there's any chance the Wizards are anything more than the 15th seed in the East. This is one of the worst rosters I've ever seen. I think the one bright spot they have is Bilal Coulibaly, who they drafted this year with the 8th pick. He is Wembanyama's teammate. He is a work in progress, but as I mentioned in our previous podcast when we discussed the Summer League, he is already a great defensive player. And I compare him to Kawhi Leonard. I think that's a ceiling. And if they can get a Kawhi Leonard type player out of that pick, I think the Wizards will count that as a win.
Yeah, I mean, any player the caliber of Kawhi Leonard is a win if you have him on your team. But this Wizards roster is quite trash. Honestly, it is one of the worst rosters I've ever seen on paper. And they're going to get shelled for 130 points every single night that they go out there.
Oh, yeah.
They are not going to – it's going to be like watching one half of the All-Star game every time the Wizards are on defense this year. There's going to be absolutely no defense being played whatsoever.
Remember last year's Houston Rockets where we saw every superstar just go off for a career high scoring night?
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be the Wizards this year.
Yep, I completely agree. The Wizards are not going to put up even a slight chance of stopping anybody this year. I mean, you're going to have no names going for 25-30 against the Wizards, like effortlessly. It's insane. I have them as the worst team in the NBA this year, the entire NBA, not just the East. I think the Wizards will have the best odds at the number 1 pick when the season's over. Obviously, with the lottery.
X factor's the lottery.
Yeah, obviously with the lottery, they're not guaranteed the number 1 pick, but I do think they'll have the best odds to get it. And for their team MVP, I have Kyle Kuzma. I think he's a little bit better than Jordan Poole right now, just because we haven't seen Jordan Poole in a starting role for a full season without superstars around him. I want to see how good Jordan Poole is on his own. And that's why I have him as the X factor, because I just don't know how good Jordan Poole is going to be this year. Playing with a team that needs him to put up 35 a night to just probably lose by 10.
Even stay competitive.
Yeah.
Even have a close game in the fourth quarter. Kuzma's going to need to be averaging 30 points a game. Hey, Kyle Kuzma's going to be putting up those NBA stats, though. He could make the All-Star game. I would not be surprised. He could be averaging 30 points a game, even on a shitty Wizards team. That might be All-Star material.
Yeah, and I think if he puts up those numbers, he could be a great candidate at the trade deadline for a contender looking to add a piece.
Well, make this roster even worse. Come on, it's already bad enough.
It is bad, but a contending team that needs a guy off the bench, even Kuzma could play that role, or just a starting 3. Teams I think will be looking at Kuzma, especially if he's putting up good numbers on Washington. I think he'd be an intriguing piece to add to a contending team midseason.
Yeah, I could see that. But to all the Wizards fans out there, pray for Matas Buzelis. or Rob Dillingham, or whoever is going to be the number one pick in 2024, because that is realistically your only hope at contending anytime soon. This roster is abysmal. Washington doesn't attract big destination free agents. This is going to be a very, very long rebuilding process. So a process that realistically should have started 3 years ago. That's when you should have traded Bradley Beal. You waited too long, and now you're in a 4-year rebuilding phase. So
yeah,
good luck being being the basement of the Eastern Conference for the next half decade.
Yeah, the Wizards are
I'll
not
not
going
be
to
watching any of your games.
Nope, they're not going to get any national TV time. They're not going to have any marquee moments. Yeah, I mean, they might win 15 games this year. I don't even know.
The marquee moments will be Jordan Poole and Shaq in a fool after he takes step back half court 3-point shots and he's confused why he's got benched after it. That'll be the Shaq. That'll be the
I just
marquee
have a feeling
moments.
There'll be a lot of yelling at each other on the Wizards bench this season for sure.
Yeah, because there are players searching for alpha roles, and there's only one alpha.
Yeah. All right, so with our verbal dismantling of the Wizards over with, we head into the final segment of the day, which is Alex's ranking of NBA jerseys. So I'll let you take it away.
All right, so I feel like it's a little harder to do. All-time jerseys. There are a lot of good jerseys out there. Having to narrow it down to 10 was kind of tough, but here we are. Here's my 10. At number 10, I have the Phoenix Suns jerseys, the Valley. I think those are so clean. I love that yellow, orange, purple gradient they have. I feel like just the Valley nickname, that's so badass. It's so sick. Like,
yeah.
It's so sick. It just goes so well with the black background on the jersey. Oh, it's so clean.
The jersey is cool, but what made it even better was the custom court that came with it that they played on every night.
Oh, yeah.
That was so
was
clean,
awesome.
And honestly, I wish they wore those every game.
Man, that's part of the reason I had them on 10. It was just a great combination. It looked incredible, and it's my number 10 NBA jersey of all time. My number 9, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves alternate jersey from 1998 to 2000. It was a black jersey with a tree outline going around the rims right here, and it just looks so sick. The black and the forest green paired so well together. The font that they had looked incredible. And it was just seeing Kevin Garnett wore it, it struck fear into opponents' hearts. And it just looked like a badass jersey. It looked like a jersey of a team that's just going to just beat you up. And I have that as number 9. Number 8, I have the original Vancouver Grizzlies teal jerseys. I love that teal color that they have. The font goes really well. The grizzly bear they had on it meshed pretty well. It's just overall a very clean jersey, and I've been wanting to get a Mike Bibby jersey like that for a while. When I get some money, it'll happen. Maybe you'll see a Mike Bibby jersey feature on this podcast. At number 7, I got the Philadelphia 76ers black jerseys that have the star as the dot on the eye and the ball underneath. It was most notably worn by Allen Iverson in the finals. Those are so clean. I like black jerseys a lot. That's going to be a consistent theme you see in here. I think black is just a sick, because black goes well with most colors. If you get a sick design with that, it pairs so well. It just looks so sick.
Yeah, black is an amazing color for jerseys for sure, and it goes, like you said, it goes with everything. So,
and it was jersey worn on one of the most iconic NBA moments in history with AI stepping over Tyronn Lue.
Yeah,
seeing that picture, those are framed in offices everywhere across the country. It is a sick picture, and you see those jerseys wrapped. They are beautiful jerseys. At number 6, I have the Lakers. I don't have their again. You're going to see the same thing. I don't have the purple or yellow jerseys. I have their black Mama jerseys. They're black jerseys with the yellow numbers. Wow, those are so clean. I wish they would stick with that more. I don't know why they don't wear it anymore, but those look so good.
They rocked those. Good. They rocked those in the bubble, right? I think the year they won the title, they rocked those every other game.
Yeah, they rocked them a little in the bubble. Yeah, that's when they wore the Mama jerseys. But they look so clean. I think they just need to keep them as their alternate. They're so much better than the blue jerseys they put out for their alternate. I don't know why the Lakers wear blue.
It looks like a Christmas jersey. It's so bad. It looks like
it doesn't even fit their, where did they get blue from? This is golden. This is yellow and purple. Where does baby blue come from?
Yeah, I don't like those blue ones either, and I think black would definitely be a better addition to the collection than those dumb blue ones.
All right, number 5. I got the Chicago Bulls black pinstripe jerseys. I was thinking of the red ones, but those pinstripes they have in their black jerseys were just so clean, so clean. And the Bulls might have the best jersey collection of all time. Their red jerseys are also awesome. I knew I had to have one of those jerseys on there. I just like black jerseys, and I thought the pinstripe design was better than the just plain red design. But either of those jerseys could have been on. Both of them are awesome, and I think either of them could have been worthy for a top 5 spot.
Yeah, based on my rankings last episode, you would have known that I would have went with the red ones and not the pinstripes. But either one is good. I feel like the red is a little more iconic, but the black ones they look very good on the court, so I can't complain with that pick.
All right, we're sticking with the pinstripe theme for number 4. I have Orlando's pinstripe jerseys, blue with black pinstripes, most notably worn by Shaq, Penny Hardaway. Oh my God! With they have the star, in their logo as a dot for the eye. It was beautifully done, and it's one of the most iconic jerseys in NBA history. Might be it was worn by Shaq before. It was worn by Penny Hardaway. It was worn by a lot of great players.
Yeah, I mean,
Dwight Howard.
I didn't even remember those jerseys, but thinking of them, I really can't think of one jersey that's better than that, and you're about to give us 3 jerseys that you think are better than that.
I have them as number 4. They are clean jerseys, but I do have 3 that are better than that. Number 3, I have the 70s Nugget Skyline jerseys. I mentioned it last episode how I love those jerseys, and I think they are a top 3 jersey of all time. The rainbow with the city of Denver in the background as white, it's beautiful. Beautiful jersey. That was such a unique concept, and it worked so well. It was mostly worn by Dikembe Mutombo in that era, and they just look so good. They brought back a variant as their city jerseys a couple years ago, and that looked pretty sick, but not as good as the OG ones. Those hit different. All right, number 2. I'll have a more recent jersey. Miami Heat Vice jerseys. The entire collection of the Vice jerseys. The pink ones, the black ones with the pink writing, even the pink that gradient in the blue. Those are my least favorite ones, but those are still so sick. The Vice jersey collection the Heat were putting out for a half decade, every single one of those were awesome. Every year they were the best city jerseys in the NBA.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
They strayed away from that this year. They went with more of a graffiti look on their city jerseys. I hope they bring back the Vice collection because those were awesome. Pink is a color I never thought would look cool in an NBA court, but I was proven wrong. I actually have a pink Tyler Hero jersey. I had to get it because they look so sick.
Yeah, and similar to the Phoenix Valley jerseys, the court that they put out every year also just elevated the jersey so much.
I added to it. It made it look so good. And my best jersey of all time, my number 1 jersey, the Toronto Raptors purple jerseys with the Raptor on the front. You got the Raptor claws and teeth on the back surrounding the name. You got pinstripes. The colors purple. You got black and red pinstripes going down. There was a lot going on, but everything complemented each other so well. The Raptor with the basketball on the front is one of the best logos in NBA history. And I love what they did with the names. Jerseys today don't really do anything with the names. They just kind of put the name on the jersey and call it a day. The Raptors had it surrounded in black with the teeth surrounding the black box around it. And that looked so good. It fit so well with the jersey. I hope they bring them back as an alternate or throwback or cities of some sort. I want to see them. I want to see the modern day version of them because they are, I think, the best jersey in NBA history.
Yeah, those jerseys are fire. I remember Vince Carter wearing those all the time. It was amazing.
And Carter's, Amari Stoudemire.
Yeah, a modern version of that would be sweet. However, the Raptors stink, so not sure if they're worried about jerseys anytime soon.
Yeah, they should be worrying about the point guard of the future instead of their jerseys.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, there it is. My top 10 jerseys list of all time.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty solid list. And yeah, I think that's all we have for today's episode. Anything else you wanted to add before we sign off?
Nah, I think we covered everything. We got Milwaukee's conference predictions coming up. I'm excited for that. Bucks are my team. I got to rep them. And little sneak peek, but they're winning it all. Confirmed. Guaranteed.
All right. You heard it here first.
That closes out our episode for today. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you enjoyed for more content. Follow our socials to see the highlights of our episodes. And we'll see you guys on Thursday.
Yeah, peace.
Peace.